So tomorrow you have a quiz. The quiz is going to cover sections 10.1 and 10.2. There will be 10 questions on the quiz tomorrow. Again, remember, use your notes, use your warm-ups, use your homework, and in addition, use the review that I posted as all good resources to start to get you ready for tomorrow's quiz. Now, the warm-ups that we did on Friday, everything that we did on that warm-up on both 10.1 and 10.2, you will have on the quiz tomorrow. But there are some additional things that you can pull from the homework. Now, let me just go ahead and show you the quiz review that was posted. Now, the first 6 questions here, they're just asking you to identify the different parts of the circle. You will have to do that tomorrow. However, instead of the question saying name a radius, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say, I'll give you a picture like this. And instead, what I'll say is name or tell me the name of PN. And then you're going to come and find PN in your picture. And you can see that PN is a radius. The questions where you're identifying the different parts of the circle will be multiple choice. So it's not like you need to memorize all the names. You don't need to memorize that the vocab words we learned were radius, diameter, chord, secant, tangent. They're going to be there as choices, and you just have to pick the name that applies. So be able to name all of the parts of the circle. Another thing to remember is whenever you're naming a circle, you're always using this center point. So for example, here, naming the circle, this is just going to be point P, circle P. So you can either put that and then put the point that's in the center, or you could write out the word circle P. So again, this was the review that was posted. You do have all of the answers for this review. Then for number 7, we did not do a question like this in the warm-up. However, I did do day 2 of notes. If you recall back when I did 10.1, I posted a file with just 2 examples in it for day 2 of 10.1. This was the first example. Now, the variable that was in your homework and also in the notes, this was an R here. So you will have a question similar to this, and it's going to have the variable R. So here instead it'll say find the radius. So in this particular problem, what we need to do to find the radius is use Pythagorean theorem. So we would assign that this over here, this hypotenuse, this C is going to be R plus 9. And then remember, we're going to plug it in to A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And then it doesn't matter if you say R is A and 15 is B. Either way, it doesn't matter. You can switch those. So then you would do R squared plus 15 squared, and then it equals R plus 9 squared. Remember, we have to write this 2 times and FOIL it. If you just square the R and square the 9, you will get it wrong. So it's R plus 9, and then you would FOIL that. And after you FOIL it, it turns into R squared plus 18R plus 81. I'm going to square the 15. And now I have to solve for R. Now, you're doing this entire quiz without a calculator. So just make sure your basic math skills are good. So when I go to try to find what the radius is, or solving for R, I subtract the R squareds. Notice it cancels from both sides. And now I'm left with 225 is equal to 18R plus 81. Subtract 81. My goal is to isolate R. I'm going to subtract here. And then now I have to divide. Now, when I covered this in the notes, I said you could leave it improper, but I want you to make it a decimal. And the instructions are going to say round to the 10th place. So you actually have to do the division here. So 144 divided by 18, and this will go in here, 8, let's see if it's 8 times, 4, 6, yep, so 6 times. So then your R here is going to equal, actually it's going to go in there 8 times. Why did I write a 6? And I just multiplied it and got 8. So it goes in here 8 times. So your radius equals 8. Now, the instructions will say round to the 10th place, but if it's an integer, I'm okay with you leaving it at 8, or you could enter it or put it as the answer as 8.0. Now, some of the versions, it might be an integer. Others, you will have to probably round. So just be aware of that. Be able to do a question like this. Also be able to do a question like number 8. This was in the warm-up from last week. We learned a theorem that stated that when you have two tangent segments that intersect at the same common external point, which is here, that these two tangent segments are congruent. So be able to set these two equal to each other. And in this case, we're finding the value of x. Now, we also did a perimeter question in the homework where it asked you to find the perimeter of the quadrilateral. You're going to ask to be finding a perimeter of a polygon, and you're going to use the fact of these congruent tangent segments. So here I'll subtract, add. This should be an 18. And then I get 21. 3x equals 21, divide by 3, and x equals 7. So be able to answer a question like this, as well as the application to finding the perimeter of a polygon. And then you'll also have questions where they're going to ask you to find the arc measure and classify it. So when you get to these questions on the quiz tomorrow, there'll be 2 blank lines. One is for the arc measure, and then the other blank line will be to classify it as either major, minor, or semicircle. Remember, when it's a major arc, it's greater than half of the circle. When it's a minor arc, it's less than half of the circle. And a semicircle arc would be exactly half of the circle. So be able to answer these types of questions. So for example, to find the measurement of AE here, what I would do here is realize that I have a diameter, and you're going to be told that in circle, whatever, that AD is a diameter. Because once you can find the diameter, then you can find the semicircle arc, and then you can just subtract things from 180. And that's what I'm going to do to find AE here. I could realize that this is a semicircle arc, the AED, and then from there, all I have to do is 180 minus 36, and then the measurement of AE is 144. And notice it's less than half of the circle, which would make this minor. So again, be able to find the arc measure and also classify it. So these questions 9 through 14 are an excellent way to practice that. Now, technically, deciding if some arcs are congruent was section 10.2. I'm going to wait and put this type of question on the test. So you will not have questions like 15 or 16. And I forgot to white this one out. Number 17 came from 10.3. So you will not have a question like number 17. You will not have any word problems tomorrow. I'm going to reserve the word problems for the test. So technically number 19 came from 10.2. So if you want to practice word problems, you can go ahead and do that. But again, no word problems on the quiz tomorrow. So again, this was the warm-up that we completed on Friday. Again, this is how the questions will be asked. I'm going to say, give the name that best describes CD. And again, what you need to pay attention to is the picture on top of the capital letters. This is looking for a line. And CD is actually a secant because it goes all the way through and it breaks out on the outside. AB, this is skimming along the side and it's only touching it at one point. making that a tangent. And we went over all of these on Friday. So again, be able to give the name, and again, it'll be multiple choice. So again, you don't have to reach back and memorize tangent, secant, chord, diameter, radius. They're all going to be listed there. You just pick the multiple choice answer. So for anybody who missed class on Friday, CD in this picture is a secant. AB is a tangent. You're also going to have questions. I know this was not in the review, but again, you can't just focus on the review. Use every resource I give you. Be able to tell how many tangents some circles have, and also classify the tangent as either being internal or external. This one only had one tangent in common, and it was an external tangent. Here, it has one common tangent, and I drew it on there in black. Be able to determine if something is a tangent. This was not on the review, but again, we did it in the homework, we did it in the notes, we did it in the warm-up, so I would be paying attention. This is a yes or no question. However, it also says explain. So if you do not explain, you're going to lose half of the points. And your explanation can just be your work. Because in order to prove that a segment or a line is a tangent, we need to make sure that the lines are perpendicular. And the way that we can confirm that is to make sure that this angle here, angle BAC, is a right angle. And the way that we're going to do that is to see if it satisfies the Pythagorean theorem. So the converse of the Pythagorean theorem states that if it satisfies the Pythagorean theorem, if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then we know it's a right angle or a right triangle, and then we would say that this is tangent. So what I would do here, again, the angle has to be at the point of tangency, that right angle. So the 34 is my C, I could say 16 is A, and the 30 will be my B. It doesn't matter if you said 30 was A and 16 B. What was important was that the 34 was the C. So all we need to do, we don't need to square root anything. All we need to do is square and add the A and the B, and then see if it equals the C squared, the C squared. So 16 squared, 256. 30 squared is 900. And 34 squared is 1156. Once I add these two, I found out that a squared plus b squared equaled c squared. So this told me I have a right triangle. So then that would mean that angle BAC is a right angle. So AB is tangent. This would be yes. And your explanation could be showing me all this work. So you need to show and prove that it's a right angle by showing that it satisfies the Pythagorean theorem. And then here, I just did this one. AB is tangent because it does satisfy the Pythagorean theorem. And here, again, same question we just saw in the review, that when you have two tangent segments and they meet at the same common external point, they're congruent. So here you would just set them equal to each other and solve for x. And then here, let me go ahead and solve this one. 3x minus 1 equals 2x plus 11. Subtract 2x. X minus 1 equals 11. Add 1. X equals 12. And then 10(2), this is where we learned about the arc measures. So be able to find the arc measure and then be able to classify it as minor, major, or semicircle. And then here, finding all of these arcs. First thing I'm going to do is label my picture. So they gave me this central angle measure. Remember, a central angle has its vertex at the center. So whenever I have a central angle, its corresponding arc measure is also congruent to it. So AE is 32. Now over here on this side, I have a vertical angle to that 32, so it's congruent. And then its arc measure is also 32. Now, one thing I could do here is if you want to fill in all the central angles, realize that you have a straight angle here. And what we can do to find this piece is just subtract 180 minus 32, and then we can get 148. So this angle here is 148, which would make this one 148, and then its arc measure is also the same, it's 148. Now, technically, I don't need to find this. I could have found the missing pieces that they're going to ask me to find without doing that, but sometimes it helps. So let me go back now and let's answer the questions. So the first one wants me to find BC. Well, I already labeled that at the beginning. It's right here because it was vertical to the given, and then its arc measure is the same. So this was 32 degrees, and it's less than half of the circle, so it's a minor arc. Then BCE, and again, you got to go in order. So from B to C to E, on the quiz tomorrow, it will tell you at the beginning that BE is a diameter. They will tell you where the diameter is located, and whenever you see your arc is at the end points of that diameter, then that's a clue, and I went out of order. I did BCE first. This one's 180, and it's a semicircle arc. And then now let me go to 2. Number 2, they wanted CBE, so start here at C, and then go to B, and around to E. And what we could do here is you could either do 360 minus the 148, or you could have also realized that you had a semicircle here, and then you could have just added 32 to it. So you could also do 180 plus 32 and get 212, or you could do the subtraction here. Either way, you get the same answer either way. And then the last one, again, you won't have to show that two arcs are congruent on the quiz, but on the test. And the reason why that these two are congruent arcs is because they have the same measure and they're in the same circle. So even though arcs have the same measure, if they're not in the same circle, or if they're not from congruent circles, they may not necessarily be congruent. They would be similar. And we'll have this on the test. And then this one, it was the same thing, but a picture wasn't given. Tomorrow on the quiz, all the questions have pictures provided. What you need to remember is that the pictures are not drawn to scale. So just remember that. So for example, if you have a picture that looks like this, and you know it's a right triangle, and let's say over here they have 20, and then over here this one looks longer, and let's say they put a 10 here. You can't go by what it looks like, okay? It's just go by the numbers that are labeled in the picture. Again, the pictures are not drawn to scale. Everybody good there? So again, go back, review, homework, notes, the review, the warm-up. Again, the warm-up is an excellent place. A good majority of the questions are coming right from that warm-up. Yes. The last one, this one, a picture was not provided, so I'll quick sketch a circle here. So if I draw in the diameter, I have AB here. And then I've got another diameter here of CD. And they told me arc AD is 50. So that's 50. So then central angle is 50. And then the one that's vertical to it is 50. And then CB would also be 50. So now to find the measurement of arc AC, what I could do here again, this is a straight line, so a straight angle. So 180 minus 50 is 130, and that's going to give me the measurement of AC. So AC is 130, and then to find ACD, A to C to D, that's the entire circle except for the 50 degrees. So the fastest way would just be to do 360 minus 50, and it's 310. Now if we had to classify, this would be major, and this would be minor. And that was the warm-up from Friday if you missed class on Friday. So again, 10 questions on the quiz. Again, the warm-up is a good place to start. The review, the homework, the notes. Again, don't just focus on one thing. Always look at the big picture. Any questions? All right, so I do have a GIM kit and a Kahoot that we can play. And I will be posting the links to these if anybody wants to use them to study.